September 14, 2024. The British Embassy in Berlin, Germany. A woman stumbles through the doors at 3:47 a.m., barefoot, bleeding, clutching a camera bag like her life depends on it. Because it does. The security guard rushes toward her. She's trembling, hypothermic, covered in dirt and blood. Her designer dress is torn. Her feet are cut from running through the forest. She's been missing for 16 hours. "I need protection," she gasps. "I need to speak to someone immediately. I have evidence. Photographs. Of everything. He's going to kill me if he finds me." The guard asks who's trying to kill her. Her answer sends a chill through the embassy. Baron Klaus von Steinberg. And he's not who anyone thinks he is.
Welcome to Secret Witness, the channel where we uncover crime, betrayal, and the darkest secrets people try to hide.
Every day we bring you gripping true crime-inspired stories that will shock you, haunt you, and make you question what really happens behind closed doors. So before we dive into today's chilling story, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell icon, so you'll never miss a single twist. Within hours, her photographs would expose one of the largest criminal operations in European history. A fake aristocrat. A luxury facade hiding human trafficking, organ trade, and murder. Dozens of victims. Years of crimes. But by the time Interpol arrived at his estate, he was gone. Vanished into the network of criminals he'd spent decades building. He's still out there. Somewhere. Watching. Waiting. And it all started with a simple email asking her to photograph an event. How well do you vet your clients? If someone reaches out to you professionally, offering good money, a legitimate-looking contract, glowing references, do you assume they're telling the truth? Do you research them? Or do you just accept the job and show up? Because that's exactly what she did. And it nearly cost her everything. Before we dive into this nightmare, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a true crime story, it's a survival story. And a warning about the monsters who hide behind wealth, prestige, and perfect reputations. Her name was Sophia Bennett. 31 years old. One of London's most sought-after event photographers. She'd built her career from nothing. Started as an assistant at 17, spent years learning the craft, and by her late 20s she was photographing weddings for celebrities, corporate galas for Fortune 500 companies, and fashion events across Europe. Sophia had a gift. She didn't just take photos, she captured moments. The look between a bride and groom. The energy of a runway show. The power dynamics in a boardroom. Her work told stories. Her website showcased her portfolio. Elegant weddings at English estates, high-fashion shoots in Paris, corporate events in Dubai. Her client list included luxury brands, international corporations, and wealthy families who paid top dollar for discretion and excellence. She was successful. Independent. Careful about the job she took. She had standards, references, contracts. But even careful people can be fooled by professionals. August 3, 2024. Sophia was at her London studio editing photos from a wedding when an email arrived. The subject line read, "Photography services required, corporate gala and fashion showcase, Germany." The sender, Baron Klaus von Steinberg. Sophia opened it. The email was immaculate, professional letterhead, formal language, specific details. Baron von Steinberg explained that he was hosting a dual event at his estate in Bavaria. A corporate gala for his investment firm's international clients, followed by a private fashion showcase featuring emerging European designers. The dates, September 13th to 14th, 2024. The pay, €25,000 for 2 days of work, plus all expenses, first-class flights, luxury accommodation, meals. He explained he'd found her through her website, that her portfolio impressed him, that several of his colleagues had recommended her specifically. He requested a call to discuss details. Sophia did what she always did. She researched. Baron Klaus von Steinberg had an impeccable online presence. A Wikipedia page describing his lineage, descended from minor German nobility, though the family had lost most of their wealth in the mid-20th century. Klaus had rebuilt the fortune through savvy investments in tech startups and real estate. His LinkedIn showed connections to legitimate businesses. His estate, Schloss Steinberg, appeared in architectural magazines as a restored 18th-century manor in the Bavarian countryside. There were photos of him at charity galas, business conferences, society events. Everything checked out. Sophia scheduled a video call. Klaus appeared exactly as she'd expected, mid-50s, well-groomed, articulate, charming. He spoke perfect English with a slight German accent. He discussed the event professionally, showed her photos of the estate, explained the guest list would include about 80 people. Corporate executives, fashion industry professionals, investors. He was respectful. Professional. He even offered to have his assistants send references from previous event coordinators. Sophia felt comfortable. This was a legitimate job. High profile. Well paid. The kind of work that would elevate her portfolio even further. She accepted. Over the next month, Sophia communicated regularly with Klaus's assistant, a woman named Greta, via email. Contracts were signed. Travel arrangements were made. A detailed schedule was provided. Everything was smooth, professional, normal. On September 12th, Sophia flew from London to Munich. A driver was waiting at the airport holding a sign with her name. The drive to Schloss Steinberg took 90 minutes through beautiful Bavarian countryside, rolling hills, forests, quaint villages. The estate appeared exactly as advertised. A stunning manor house surrounded by manicured gardens, with a separate building that had been converted into an event space. Luxury cars were parked in the circular driveway. Staff members moved efficiently, setting up for the next day's events. Sophia was shown to a guest suite in the manor. It was elegant, antique furniture, a 4-poster bed, a bathroom with marble fixtures. She unpacked her equipment, charged her camera batteries, and felt grateful for landing such a prestigious job. That night, she had dinner with Klaus and a few early arriving guests in the manor's formal dining room. The conversation was sophisticated, art, business, travel. Klaus was the perfect host, attentive, charming, knowledgeable. Sophia went to bed that night feeling excited about the next day's shoot. She had no idea she just walked into a trap. September 13th. The corporate gala began at 6 p.m. Sophia spent the afternoon photographing the setup. The event space transformed with dramatic lighting, floral arrangements, a stage for presentations. Guests arrived in luxury vehicles. Men in tailored suits. Women in designer dresses. Everyone elegant. Sophisticated. Exactly what you'd expect at a high society corporate event. Sophia moved through the crowd with her camera, capturing the energy. Cocktail hour. Networking. Speeches about investments and market trends. A 5-course dinner. Everything was flawless. Klaus was everywhere, shaking hands, making introductions, playing the role of the gracious host and successful businessman. Sophia took hundreds of photos. Professional. Candid. Artistic shots of the architecture and ambience. The gala ended around 11 p.m. Guests who weren't staying at the estate departed. About 30 people remained for the fashion showcase scheduled for the next day. Sophia reviewed her photos in her room, satisfied with the work. She'd captured exactly what Klaus wanted. An event that looked prestigious, legitimate, successful. What she didn't know was that only half the people at that gala were real business professionals. The others were part of Klaus's network. Criminals disguised as investors. Money launderers. Traffickers. People who used events like this to conduct business under the cover of legitimacy. September 14th. The fashion showcase was scheduled for 2 p.m. in a renovated barn on the estate that had been converted into a runway venue. Sophia arrived early to photograph the setup. Models were having hair and makeup done. Designers were making last-minute adjustments to their collections. The atmosphere was buzzing with creative energy. The showcase began on time. Sophia positioned herself strategically, capturing the models on the runway, the designers' reactions, the audience's engagement. Around 3:30 p.m., during a brief intermission, Sophia needed to change her camera battery. She'd left her spare equipment in her car, which was parked near a service entrance behind the barn. She walked outside, enjoying the fresh air. The afternoon sun filtered through the trees. Everything was peaceful. That's when she heard voices. Male voices. Speaking German. Angry. Urgent. Sophia paused. The voices were coming from a stone outbuilding about 50 meters away, something that looked like it had once been a stable or storage building. She should have ignored it. Should have gone back inside. But something about the tone made her uneasy. Professional curiosity. Photographer's instinct. She walked closer. Sophia approached the outbuilding quietly. There were no windows on the side facing her, but she could see a door slightly ajar. The voices were clearer now. She didn't speak German fluently, but she understood enough. One voice, it sounded like Klaus, was saying something about the shipment arriving tonight and medical team standing by. Another voice asked about the girl from Romania and whether the buyer confirmed payment. Sophia's blood ran cold. She pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking, but her training took over. She started recording audio. Then she carefully moved to get a better angle. That's when she saw them through a gap in the door. Klaus. 2 other men she recognized from the gala. And a 4th man in medical scrubs. They were standing around a table covered in documents, photographs, and what looked like medical files. On the wall behind them was a large map with pins and notes in German. Sophia's photographer instinct kicked in. She raised her camera, she always kept it with her, and started shooting through the gap. Silent shutter mode. High ISO to handle the low light. She photographed everything. The men's faces. The documents on the table. The map on the wall. And then she saw something that made her stomach turn. In the corner of the room there were 3 large crates. Industrial size. With air holes. For a split second she thought she saw movement inside one of them. Sophia took one more photograph. A clear shot of Klaus's face, the documents, and the crates in the same frame. That's when her camera's memory card filled up and the camera beeped. It was quiet. But in the silence of that moment, it was loud enough. The men inside stopped talking. Turned toward the door. Klaus's eyes met Sophia's through the gap. For one frozen second, neither of them moved. Then Klaus shouted something in German. Sophia ran. What would you do in this moment? You're in a foreign country. Miles from the nearest town. Surrounded by criminals. Your phone has limited signal. Do you hide? Do you run? Drop your answer in the comments. Sophia sprinted toward the main estate, her heart hammering. Behind her, she could hear shouting. Footsteps. Men running. She had maybe a 30-second head start. Her mind was racing. She couldn't go back to the fashion show. Too many people. Klaus controlled that space. She couldn't go to her room. They'd checked there first. Her car keys were in her room. She needed to get off the estate. Get to a road. Find help. Sophia changed direction, running toward the tree line at the edge of the property. The forest was dense. If she could get into the trees, she could hide. Wait until dark. Then move. She was wearing the wrong clothes for running, designer dress, heeled boots for the photo shoot. But adrenaline kept her moving. Behind her, the voices were getting louder. They were closing in. Branches scratched her arms. Her boots slipped on loose dirt, but she kept running. After running for what felt like 10 minutes but was probably closer to 5, Sophia collapsed behind a fallen log, gasping for air. She forced herself to be silent, to listen. She could hear them in the distance. At least 3 voices, searching, calling out to each other in German. Sophia pulled out her phone. 1 bar of signal. She tried to call emergency services. The call wouldn't connect. She tried again. Nothing. She opened her camera and scrolled through the photos she'd just taken. Even on the small preview screen, she could see the evidence clearly. Klaus's face, the documents, the crates. She needed to get this evidence to authorities. But first she needed to survive. Sophia waited. The voices gradually moved away, searching a different part of the forest. When she felt safe enough, she started moving again, carefully, quietly, trying to put as much distance as possible between herself and the estate. Sophia spent the next 8 hours moving through the forest. She had no supplies, no water, no proper shoes. Her feet were bleeding from cuts and blisters. Her dress was torn and filthy. The September night was cold. Several times she heard vehicles on nearby roads. Twice she saw flashlights sweeping through the trees, search parties looking for her. She stayed hidden, kept moving. Around midnight, Sophia reached a small road. She considered trying to flag down a car, but she was terrified. What if it was someone working for Klaus? What if they'd alerted local police who were in his pocket? She kept walking along the road, staying in the shadows. By 2 a.m., she saw signs for the Autobahn. She was getting closer to civilization, to safety. At 3:15 a.m., she saw the lights of Berlin in the distance. She'd walked nearly 15 kilometers through the forest and along country roads. Her phone had died hours ago. She had no money, her wallet was back at the estate. She was exhausted, freezing, and terrified. But she was alive. And she had evidence. Sophia reached the outskirts of Berlin around 3:30 a.m. She asked a late-night taxi driver for directions to the British Embassy. He looked at her like she was insane, barefoot, bleeding, filthy, but he pointed her in the right direction. At 3:47 a.m., Sophia stumbled through the embassy doors. The security guard's eyes widened. He immediately called for help. Within minutes, Sophia was in a secure room with an embassy official and a British consular officer. She was given blankets, water, medical attention for her feet. And then she told them everything. She showed them the photographs on her camera. Clear evidence of Klaus von Steinberg involved in something deeply criminal. The consular officer made calls. To Interpol. To German Federal Police. To British intelligence. By 6 a.m., an international investigation had begun. At 7:30 a.m. on September 14th, German Federal Police and Interpol agents raided Schloss Steinberg. They found the outbuilding where Sophia had seen Klaus and the others. Inside, documents detailing a massive criminal operation spanning multiple countries. Human trafficking routes. Lists of victims, mostly women from Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia. Medical records for organ transplants arranged through black market surgeries. Financial ledgers showing millions of euros laundered through Klaus's investment firm. They found the crates, empty now. But forensic analysis would later find traces of human DNA, drugs, and sedatives inside them. They found a medical facility hidden in the manor's basement. Surgical equipment. Recovery rooms. Evidence that people had been held there against their will. Some had been operated on. Some had disappeared entirely. But they didn't find Klaus von Steinberg. Investigators pieced together what happened. After Sophia escaped, Klaus knew his operation was compromised. He'd spent 20 years building this network, using his fake aristocratic identity to move freely in high society while operating one of Europe's most profitable trafficking and organ trade operations. He couldn't let it all fall apart. Within 30 minutes of Sophia running into the forest, Klaus had activated his exit plan. He'd rehearsed it dozens of times, always prepared for the possibility of exposure. He'd destroyed hard drives, burned documents, and made encrypted calls to his network. Then he'd gotten into a private vehicle, not one registered to him, and driven to a small private airfield 40 kilometers away. By the time Sophia reached the embassy, Klaus was already on a private plane to an unknown destination. No flight plan. No official record. By the time police raided his estate, Klaus had been gone for hours. Over the next weeks, investigators unraveled Klaus's empire. He wasn't a baron. Klaus von Steinberg wasn't even his real name. He was Klaus Müller, born in East Germany in 1968. No noble lineage. No inherited wealth. He'd created the aristocratic persona in the late 1990s, forged documents, bribed officials, built a fake Wikipedia page, established a network of accomplices who vouched for him in society. The investment firm was real, but it was a front. Most of the investments were money laundering operations for criminal organizations across Europe, Russia, and the Middle East. The human trafficking operation had been running for at least 15 years. Young women lured with fake job offers, promises of modeling careers, or simply kidnapped and transported to Klaus's estate. Some were sold to buyers in the Middle East. Others were used for organ harvesting, kidneys, livers, corneas sold on the black market. Investigators found evidence linking Klaus to at least 43 missing persons cases across 12 countries. Not all the victims were at his estate. He had connections to other operations, other locations. Sophia's photographs were the key. They showed Klaus, his associates, the documents, the crates. Combined with the physical evidence found at the estate, it was enough to issue international arrest warrants. Interpol issued a red notice. Klaus von Steinberg, or Klaus Müller, was now one of the most wanted men in Europe. But he was gone. Sophia spent 2 weeks in protective custody, giving testimony to investigators from multiple countries. She provided every detail she could remember, described every person she'd seen at the gala, shared every photograph. Her images became the foundation of the case. Without them, Klaus might have been able to claim he was innocent, that his estate had been used without his knowledge. But the photographs didn't lie. Sophia also revealed something investigators hadn't known. During the cocktail hour at the gala, she'd photographed everyone in attendance. Those images helped authorities identify 12 other individuals involved in Klaus's network. 6 were arrested. The others, like Klaus, disappeared. In the months following the raid, authorities across Europe made dozens of arrests connected to Klaus's operation. 3 of his associates were captured in Austria. 2 more in Poland. 1 in France. Financial investigators traced millions of euros to accounts in offshore tax havens. Properties were seized. Shell companies were dissolved. But Klaus himself remained ghost. Reported sightings came from all over the world: Turkey, Morocco, Brazil, Thailand. Each time authorities arrived, he was already gone. He had resources, money, connections, a network of criminals willing to hide him. Sophia returned to London under a different name. For her safety, British authorities helped her establish a new identity. She couldn't return to her old life. Too many people in Klaus's network knew who she was. She testified via video link at the trials of Klaus's captured associates. Her testimony helped secure convictions that resulted in a combined 200 years of prison sentences. But she lived with the knowledge that Klaus was still out there, still free, still dangerous, and possibly still running similar operations from wherever he'd hidden himself. The hardest part of the investigation was identifying Klaus's victims. Authorities found DNA evidence linking the estate to 17 missing women. They were able to notify families, provide closure. Though the news was devastating, at least the families knew the truth. But there were dozens more. Women whose identities couldn't be confirmed, who'd been trafficked from countries without reliable missing persons databases. who'd been taken from lives where no one had the resources to look for them. Klaus had preyed on the vulnerable, on women who thought they were getting legitimate job opportunities, on people desperate enough to trust a stranger offering hope. As of today, Klaus Müller, the man who called himself Baron Klaus von Steinberg, remains at large. Interpol maintains an active investigation. His red notice remains in effect. His photograph has been circulated to law enforcement agencies in 195 countries. But he's a ghost. 15 months since the raid and not a single confirmed sighting. Intelligence suggests he may have undergone plastic surgery, changed his appearance, adopted yet another false identity. The investigation remains open. The hunt continues. But Klaus von Steinberg is still out there, somewhere. And that terrifies everyone who worked on this case. Because men like him don't stop. They don't retire. They don't reform. They just find new hunting grounds. This case should make all of us more careful. Drop a warning sign in the comments if you've ever accepted a job or opportunity from someone you only knew online. And tell us, what steps do you take to verify someone is who they claim to be? Sophia Bennett survived because she trusted her instincts. When something felt wrong, she paid attention. When she was in danger, she ran. When she had evidence, she got it to authorities. But she also survived because she was lucky. Many of Klaus's victims weren't. So here's what we all need to learn from this case. If you work independently, photographer, consultant, freelancer, contractor, verify clients thoroughly. Not just online presence but actual references from real people. Never travel to remote locations alone for first-time clients. Always tell someone where you're going. Share location tracking with trusted friends or family. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Have an exit plan. Know where the nearest embassy, police station, or safe location is. Red flags Sophia missed. Klaus found her online but had no mutual professional connections she could verify independently. The pay was significantly higher than her usual rate. Not impossible but worth questioning. The location was remote, away from major cities. The guest list included people she couldn't research or verify. None of this was Sophia's fault. Klaus was a professional criminal who'd fooled hundreds of people over 2 decades. But awareness can save lives. If you're traveling internationally for work, register with your embassy. Keep copies of important documents in multiple locations. Have emergency contacts programmed into your phone. Keep your phone charged and bring backup batteries. Learn basic phrases in the local language, especially help, police, and embassy. Signs of human trafficking operations. Job offers that seem too good to be true. Requests to travel to remote locations. Pressure to make quick decisions. Reluctance to provide verifiable references. Payment structures that seem unusual. Locations with restricted access or poor cell service. If this case opened your eyes to the dangers of professional scams and trafficking operations, share this video. Someone in your life needs to see it. A photographer, a consultant, a freelancer, anyone who takes jobs from people they've only met online. And if you're a professional who works independently, please be more careful than Sophia was. Vet your clients. Trust your instincts. Prioritize safety over money. Sophia survived. 43 other people didn't. Don't become a statistic. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Every day we expose the predators, the schemes, and the criminals who hide behind legitimate faces. Knowledge is protection. Awareness is survival. This has been Secret Witness, True Crime Stories, where we expose the truth, protect the innocent, and hunt the monsters still hiding in plain sight. Stay safe out there. Stay alert. And never stop questioning. Because somewhere in the world, Klaus von Steinberg is still operating, still hunting, still destroying lives. And the next person who accepts a job from a charming stranger could be his next victim. Unless we all learn to recognize the warning signs.